All right. Hello, everyone. Hope you are doing well. Let's jump into this. My name is Daniel, and I will be talking about the Nature article towards reconstructing intelligible speech from the human auditory cortex. My bioinformatics method I cover is deep neural networks, and my audience is all of you fellow BIM 143 peeps. All right, the scientific question: can deep neural networks or linear regression models reproduce speech from different speech synthesizers utilizing low frequency and high gamma recordings of brainwaves? Hypothesis: if reconstructed sound from deep neural networks perform better in subjective and objective evaluations than linear regression models, then deep neural network models are a better candidate for neuroprosthesis technology. Very straightforward, right? No. So some key terms. First off, what is a deep neural network? It's a computing system inspired by the biological neural network based on a collection of connected units or nodes, as you can see here, called artificial neurons. An artificial neuron receives a signal, then processes it and can signal following neurons that it's connected to, and therefore creates these layers of computation. And a linear regression model is a more straightforward model of prediction, where it seeks to correlate the relationship between two variables with a straight line, and then makes it, therefore they're both making predictions. All right, so a little bit more in context for the paper: neuroprosthesis, development or medical device designed to be linked to the nervous system and enhance the cognitive, motor, or sensory ability. And so that is the goal, to try to detect and train a bunch of brain waves so that it can reconstruct speech for people that cannot create their own speech. So vocoder, it analyzes and synthesizes the human voice signals for audio data compression. This is very important for the study. And a little bit more insight into these neural networks layers. So a fully connected network, neural network where all the nodes or neurons in one layer are connected to the neurons in the next layer. So as you can see here, they're all kind of connected here. Locally connected is very similar. However, they have constrained connectivity of each node in the network to only a subset of nodes in previous layers, as opposed to the fully connected one. All right. The take-home findings of this article: scientists found that deep neural network models were better at reversing vocoder parameters than both auditory spectrograms and linear regression models. So deep neural networks are much better suited for speech reconstruction. Deep learning methods are beneficial for prosthesis development because the system can be trained on data that is collected and improves over time. The intelligibility of reconstructed speech is highly dependent on using both high frequency and low frequency, or high gamma and low frequency bands here. How many electrodes are put into the brain and how long it's trained on the data. So the more electrodes that you have, the longer you train the deep neural network, the better the intelligibility becomes. And I'll go more into that intelligibility part. And this is just what ideally the subjects would be looking at in terms of procedure. All right, what has been done before leading up to this article? So the use of songbird as an animal. Ramirez in the journal Neuroscience used songbirds as an animal model to understand the neural mechanisms of vocal recognition. And so they identified these spectrotemporal receptive fields, and that allows us to recognize various factors of the song, including pitch, rhythm, and timbre, to pin those down to specific regions in the brain that we can observe. And so our article builds on this information because it uses similar techniques and methods for vocal recognition and reconstructions for humans as it was used for lovely songbirds here. All right. Another great article, Mascarani in the journal Neurophysiology, very similar sort of takeaways. They reconstructed the spectrograms of speech from the responses of AR neurons. They used brain input from ferrets that had stainless steel head posts surgically implanted into the skull. And our article builds upon these findings by using similar neural network methods to specifically reconstruct speech. So what's new? Just keep tagging on. the deep neural networks are better than linear regression models for the reconstruction of speech. Here you have an intricate sort of model of what a deep neural network looks like in terms of the layers of computation. And then here you have vocoder. This is what is breaking down speech, and it has multiple parameters here. And so you can just kind of tell intuitively here that deep neural networks seem to have a better infrastructure for the reconstruction of speech here. All right, some limits of this article. It is very invasive. The results of the study require that electrodes be inserted subdermally or directly into neural tissue to observe the brain waves necessary for analysis and the training of the neural network to accumulate all this data. And so another very important limitation of the study is that it's subjective interpretation. The subjects are hearing words are being the reconstructed speech from these different models. And this does not mean that they're hearing words that they're recording for the neural network, but this does not mean that the brain waves produced by hearing those sounds are identical to the brain waves that would be produced when the subjects choose to say those words. And so this means that the data that they are accumulating to train the neural network may not be what they need to train their data on to enable adequate speech brain-computer interface systems. So there is that subjective nature present in this study. All right, into our figure overview. This figure, quite intricate. We'll start breaking it down. So both linear regression models and deep neural network models, data analysis models were used for the reconstruction of digit audio. So digits 0 through 9 were reconstructed, and it was a closed sort of survey. So the subjects were only told they were told 0 to 9. So they knew it had to be one of those numbers. They were asked to interpret the reconstructed speech. Subjects were asked to interpret the reconstructed audio from both the audio spectrogram, this figures right here, and the vocoders, respectively. And so the heat map clearly depicts better reconstruction accuracy for the deep neural network reconstruction method compared to the linear regression model. So as you can see here, when it was actually 0, the reconstructed speech is 0, it was interpreted or perceived as 0 100% of the time, whereas when it was actually 1, it was perceived most of the time here, and it was sometimes perceived as digit 9 when it was actually 1. And so a perfect model would have a diagonal line here where all of the actual sounds that it reconstructed was perceived as the digits, right? All right. Next up, the code. So I was unable to get my code to function. However, I can describe, and this link down here links straight to the website where they talk about the code. And so skflow is it's a neural network library. They have multiple sort of programs, and they have a whole environment set up there where you can learn. So this first line here is you import skflow. Next, you import your methods here. Iris is the data set that we would be using in this deep neural network model. These next 2 lines here describe the construction of the layers of the deep neural network, and then the scoring of the data that is fed through. So the iris is the data set. Next, you have the layers of computation, and you are attributing a score to that data, and then you're printing the accuracy percentage and percent score. And so over time, it would improve its capacity to make predictions about the data. All right. So conclusion, would a non-invasive neuroprosthesis system still be capable of the same level of deep learning observed in this experiment? And what is the structure of the data necessary to train a deep neural network on? All right, some take-home questions for you all. And then here are my references. Y'all have a great day.